general admission. Welcome back to our viewers. Thank you for being here. Woo!
Woo!
Shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out. Thank
Viewers.
you.
Yeah.
Wow. So today we are here to talk about everything that has to do with auditions. Oh my goodness, that there are so many subtopics to go into about theater auditions, self-tapes, in-person, equity versus non-equity.
Mm-hmm.
What does an audition look like? Remembering the times pre-pandemic of auditions and what it looks like now. And what it looks like to do a badass audition, right? So I think a great start off conversation that we can have is just talking about how do each of us find auditions. Mind you, to the viewers, all three of us, we come from various different backgrounds. Natalie and I, we're both in Indiana. I'm part of Equity. Terrence is in New York. Well,
Indiana, you're right.
But you're from.
Sorry, I know what you're saying. Edit. Sorry, I got so confused. I was like, wait a second. No, you're right. Sorry about that. My brain said from.
No, we're keeping that in. No. Oh shoot! Now she's gone. She said, "What?"
I'm just like, I can't put up with this mansplaining anymore. How
right? I'm dead. No, because that's the energy that I like. She said, "Wait, don't you ever come out with."
Better come correct.
No, you were right though, because technically I'm based in Indiana, so my brain heard from Indiana. So let's backtrack. Say that again.
So Natalie and I were based in Indiana. I will mention that Natalie though has a lot of experience in Ohio because that's where she's from. And Terrence is based in New York, which is awesome. And I think we mentioned in a previous podcast he's from Indiana. We all met. Blah blah blah. Blah. Yeah. But yeah, blah blah. But anyway, how do we find auditions, y'all?
I find auditions through playbilljobs.com. I'm on Actors Access. I'm on Backstage. I am literally on everything.
Everywhere.
He's doing the New York experience.
No,
literally.
What does like a specific one have like? Oh, that's usually where I get my auditions at, or it's just wherever it comes.
Honestly, wherever it comes, because I don't want to get into, because we'll talk about like submissions and like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic later. But mainly I've gotten just a lot of in-person calls from Playbill, because like they'll give you the address, the day of the audition, yada yada yada. You show up, wait all day, sing your little 16 bars, never hear from anything again. kind of just the gig, baby. But it's just like, great.
Oh God, yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that. Not getting any type of notification after an audition.
No, literally. Right. We'll get into that. We'll get into that because, anyways.
Right.
So,
welcome back, Natalie. Oh, she can't hear. We'll see you soon.
So yeah, mainly Playbill jobs, and Backstage used to be a lot. Like I used to get a lot of like stuff from there. Now it's more like Actors Access, because Natalie is always. We can't hear you.
I'm screaming. We can't hear you. If you're listening, Natalie, for whatever reason, her whatever just keeps going in and out.
Really? So, I use Google. Not Google. I
You So I use google.com to find, in a way, yes.
No, period. Google.com.
No, really.
Not me literally crying. That's actually funny. Okay.
So I use Playbill Jobs, Backstage, Actors Access. Those are like my main 3 modes of like finding auditions, submitting for stuff, and yeah, kind of the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were mentioning before, like basically you just get them wherever. You're like,
Truly. Whenever there's an open call, great. Sounds great. I'll just go show my face. Do I seem perfect for this show? No, but an audition is an audition, and if I can get into the room, I can get into the room, and that's
Mhm.
the goal. And every once in a while, somebody will ask me to submit something for them, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it never hurts to try. Like putting yourself out there has never done anything. Like that's never a bad thing.
Right. Always getting seen. You just get seen.
Getting seen.
Yeah. Truly.
Yeah. How about you, Natalie?
So and I don't live in New York City. But I do sometimes use the same things as Terrence. I don't use Actors Access. I tried, and then it started to confuse me. And it really wasn't helpful to me at the place I was at. But Playbill is really interesting because like it's jobs. I mean, if you're listening, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but it is jobs like all over the country that you can audition for. Even sometimes I feel like overseas. But I do like to just for funsies check oh my gosh, backstage.com, I think is what it's called. I get emails from them, so I sign up for that. And then it's actually silly to think about, but I do use like Facebook to find some auditions because some professional theaters will post on Facebook. And I know Facebook is like super outdated, but like it's actually kind of a useful tool for like finding like different groups for auditions. And I mean, that's where I found a lot of auditions like lately for like general seasons and everything. So that's been pretty nice. And yeah, like if something comes up, I'll always click on it to see if I'm eligible to audition because I never think it hurts. But yeah. And also word of mouth. That's one of the best ways to find out about auditions is telling your friends about when there is auditions coming up or like hearing about auditions coming up. So that's another big way to find out.
Yeah. No, seriously, I think most of my auditions are actually by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've never used any of those platforms before. Since I've always been Indiana based, I've always went to the websites of the actual theaters that I wanted to perform at. I would go to their website, look to see when their general auditions are before I joined Equity, and then I would prepare for that and send them an email, be like, "Hey, I'm interested." And then after some time, now I'm getting a lot more here in Indiana. I usually get like an email saying, "Hey, Isaiah, can you audition for X, Y, and Z?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll send in a tape or I'll show up in person." That's the majority of the auditions I get now here. But eventually, I do want to audition outside of Indiana because I do want to grow. I just have to push myself. So I do hope to use Backstage and Playbill and all those things to really advance and try to get booked elsewhere because I'm not going to be Indiana based forever.
No,
not forever.
No,
Nah.
And it is super fun. Also, if you're like interested in the theater you always wanted to do shows at, sometimes I like to like just kind of like go on to their website, which feels like almost too easy. But like for some of like the professional theaters, they'll have like open calls, like for like a lot of the Chicago regional theaters. I feel like do that, or like at least a few of them. I mean, theaters like everywhere do that. Because people want you to audition. They want you to be in the room. So
they want you to be in the room. So please show yourself. Don't be scared. And a lot of theaters, especially professional theaters, sometimes, you know, even when they're not doing auditions, sometimes they still want people to send in their material. Like they can, I'm telling you, a lot of the jobs that I've gotten are from past things I've submitted. Because they're like, oh, we see that, you know, we have this in our archive. We reviewed your audition from X, Y, and Z, and we want you to do or audition again for this play or whatever. So if they have an email, send in your stuff. Just send it in.
Yes.
Send it
Because
in.
again, like the worst thing that could happen is that it just doesn't like work out, but they still have seen your face.
Yeah.
And just because it didn't work out for you doesn't mean that they won't remember you and maybe want you for another project. So it never hurts to just try. And if you feel silly, it's okay. Because we all feel silly sometimes auditioning. But yeah.
And I think with COVID, that's definitely helped with a lot of communicating with people like through email and stuff, because for so long that we had to submit online. Like we had to literally make a self-tape visit it.
Which could lead us into talking about pre-pandemic versus auditions now. For you both, how has like it affected you, like auditioning, like before the pandemic, before we knew anything that was coming, and then versus now? Like, what is like the biggest things that you'd say like affect like how you audition now versus then?
Oh, that's wow! I loved how you phrased that, because that is such
really
a question.
same.
It's interesting.
Thinking about pre-pandemic auditions. I mean, first of all, I have to think about the time period I was in. I was in college, and majority of our stuff was, I mean, not majority, all of it was in person. Every audition was in person, and I remember for a while auditioning in person. You know, you have to start training your mind to enjoy auditioning, especially auditioning in front of people. Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt out. But I remember back then I would, you know, really train my brain to try to enjoy auditioning. Remember that this is actually just another practice, and use this opportunity to talk to people and get to know them. You know what I mean? And have fun getting to know or talk to people that you met before at the audition. You know, social network or network, whatever it's called. But now, or like during the pandemic when everything was dry, everything was dry as hell. We were doing Zoom stuff like readings and even Zoom auditions. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Sometimes productions.
Yes.
Fully.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it was tough. Yeah. It might humanly wise. That's not a phrase, but I'm making a phrase. Humanly wise.
Yeah.
I always felt disconnected. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. We're really trying this, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah.
No, for real.
But I think coming now, I feel like we've been in it for such a while that it's just like a necessity now. Like because we made it such a part of our society to use video. And I know it does benefit some people because some people can't travel to auditions and whatnot, so they get to send in a tape, and it does make it a little convenient. Like, I wasn't able to be at that mass audition that we all three were in, but I was able to send in a tape, so got seen. Period.
A little bit more accessible,
right?
In some senses. Terrence, how about you?
For me, I would say going off of Isaiah. Pre-pandemic, I loved going in person because one, like guaranteed you like at least guaranteed to be seen. And then two, just I love networking. I love like talking to people and being like, hey, like I'm here and you're here, so we like have a very same interest in something. So like, let's be friends, type shit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so, again, we started this podcast because Natalie, you always talk about community, and I love like, and how theater is always just like the basis for it is community, and how pre-pandemic there was just so much community and audition, like, and just simply like showing up for auditions and like encouraging each other and all that. And I would say. I'm going to start talking about like during the pandemic and then also a little bit after, since things are kind of getting back into person.
Right.
With like when everything was being like submissions online, it was like for me, it was like at the beginning, I was doing 35, 40 takes because I'm just like with video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my hair looks fucked up on this one, but like I hit this note and this, but this
pulling yourself apart.
This literally, and it's like, whoa, ew. So I would say when we were doing self tapes, auditions kind of became like not fun, like not fun. I'm judging myself hardcore more than this casting director who might not even see me because again, like you submitted to this portal and you don't 9 times out of 10 they will not let you know if they even say thank you for the submission. And then also with this past audition, that's disclaimer story time. So I had this audition for this show Andy Shakes, and I was just like, I sent my tape to Isaiah and Natalie, and I was like, y'all, like, give me some pointers. And I was like, and both Natalie and Isaiah were like, you just like you want to move. And I was like, I want to move, but it's also like self-tape. I have to stay in this fucking box. I'm like, I can't. Right. So it's just like, dealing with that. And then I would say, now when it was like audition season in the city, when bitches were at Pearl Studios at 5 a.m. every day, like, okay, I will wait. Tears will make 10 o'clock. Period. But kind of getting back into that mindset of just like, okay, this is your one shot. You're gonna go sing your little 32 bars of this song, and like you got to kill this shit. Like that's like I love that adrenaline. I love that. Just like this is the one chance you get, and kind of. I'm so glad you brought that point up, Isaiah, of like, this is supposed to be fun. Because I was texting my mom, if anything, I'm going to text my motherfucking mother. And I was like, Mommy, I'm nervous. Oh my God. Like, I was like, Mommy, I'm scared. I'm scared. She was like, Terrence. She like, Terrence, just have fun. And I literally was just like,
yeah.
That's what the fuck it is about. Like, it's not about, like, yeah, if you don't get the job, if you get the job, whatever. But like, I want to wake up and do this shit every day. This shit is like not a job for me because I simply love doing it so much. So that's my little divvy on
feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say, I've always been like a more of a nervous auditioner, but it's very strange because like, and I mean, not happy the pandemic happened at all. But it has taught me to appreciate auditions more. I am a very good callbacker, in my opinion. Love a good callback, love a good side. Give me a side any day. I'll do it. Give me a side I don't even know. Give me a side I've never even looked at, and I'll do it every time. And like I'm very good at callbacks in my opinion, and like I'm very talkative to like other people auditioning, and like I really like to make the room a little bit more fun. And but the initial audition I always like get really quiet, and if you know me, it's not who I am. And so before the pandemic, I would treat it as like you only have this chance and this is it. This could end your whole entire career. And so it was like always like sometimes a major life or death situation when talking about like my career, which, you know, is an overthinking. That's an anxiety situation that we have had to move past. But when the pandemic happened, I was like, oh my gosh, kind of excited for self-tapes in a weird way. Because I was like, I can take as many tapes of this and make it to perfection. But then a few months in to that like new idea of doing this all the time is that, first of all, never really got a whole bunch of training on it just because no one really considered self-tapes as much as to be the primary way, I think, like at least from what I grew up learning. And then And then a couple months after like learning about self-tapes, it was a very trial and error situation of learning how to self-tape. Is that like I was pulling myself apart, like I was ripping myself to shreds, to the point of I felt like, and I was sending these to like 10 people to watch and get everyone's opinion. And it's like, as helpful as it can be to do that, it also can be so damaging to like watch yourself that much and to perceive yourself in a way that is so intense all the time, where you're pulling yourself apart. And I was like, oh my gosh, I like miss being able to just go into a room and be like, this is me, this is who I am, and I have come to show you this thing that I've now learned. And so because of the whole self-tape thing, now I'm a part of the group of, I like the adrenaline that you get from like going in and like kind of doing a show and tell and like leaving whatever happens in that room, because it's like such a weight off. It feels so much better than sending in a self-tape. And so like, I mean, I'm kind of thankful that because of a shitty situation of auditioning and going through theater on Zoom, is that now I appreciate in-person auditions even more, because even from a director's standpoint, like I like to see how people move and like are in their body in person, because it just shows you a little bit more. And like self-tapes, I appreciate anyone with a self-tape where they're like trusting their instincts in that tape. I think that shows a lot about a person. It's just that I think every actor, even if you don't like auditioning in person, likes to like come in and show and tell, because that's like our whole spiel, is that we're making a character and we want to show you how we live in that character. So yeah, it's definitely a whole like shift in, I think I've been on a roller coaster with how I felt about auditioning, but now I kind of am in the sense of like a little delusion, a little delusional of like, oh, like they are so excited for me to be here. And like, I don't even think that has to be fully delusional. It's they are usually are. And like, you could be the one. So like, I go in and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually just going in to like read for the part because I already got cast. So sometimes I like go in with that attitude to like hype myself up, because it's just so much better to do that in person, because you can like believe in yourself a little bit more. I don't know. I know that was a long spiel, but it's a whole roller coaster between my relationship with auditioning then versus now. But yeah.
No,
that's my
period.
Yeah.
I love, no, that actually, I think we made such great points. Like, I love that you brought up, Natalie, your journey, from, you talked about how being kind of a nervous auditioner, and now you've gone to this mode where you are, what did you say? You said the Lulu.
A little bit Lulu.
I love it. I always tell my students, this is your time. I don't care like if the people watching you have seen 100, 200, 300, 400 people before you. When you walk into that room, take your time.
Yeah.
This is your time. Because this is your time. First of all, hopefully you spent at least all week, practicing, doing all the work that you do as a performer. Like, show off. It's such a beautiful experience to just walk into the room and just show, just like Natalie was saying, show and freaking tell. Show and tell. I love it. But I was just saying that it is good to have, a sense. I know we're being funny, we're saying delusional, but it's not really being delusional. It's like, walk in there with the confidence that you already got the part.
Yeah.
Just facts.
No, for real. You worked this hard. Show them that you worked hard.
Because you may have gotten the part. You may have gotten it. So, like, I also think I've had the best auditions when I have walked into a room, not with like a I don't care attitude, but like kind of like,
right.
Like I prepared, I've done my work. I've done everything I needed to do to feel confident, because like I know who I am and I'm a professional. But like also walking into the room being like, it's just another day. like it's just so fun, like I don't even care what happens, because then you also like do bits better, like you talk a little bit better, like you just are yourself a little bit more. If you don't treat it like this will be the biggest thing in my career, you know, even if it is the biggest auditions of your career, you cannot make it greater than you. Like you have to treat it on this realistic level, because that would not be nice of you to treat it like it's greater than you.
And you can't, and I feel like we're moving into I think this is a good segue to move into what does a great audition look like, and actually how to prepare for a great audition. But you can't focus on the, oh, am I going to mess up? Am I going to blah, blah? If you did all the work throughout your week or however long you practice, then you shouldn't be focused on that. Just focus on having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
So in regards to in-person auditions, besides self-tapes, because it's really hard to talk about self-tapes because it's really not the foundation of our medium, of our art. It's not, it's so hard to show how I look on stage through a camera. Like, I mean, one day we probably all want to, you know, maybe do a little show or something, maybe. But
like a tiny little movie,
right, tiny little thing,
just a silly little A24 or something,
right?
You know, really underground movie.
Very under, maybe
little
a little
Marvel
trilogy.
Studios, little Marvel. I don't know, something light, you know, something that doesn't fill you up a lot. Little Jordan Peele.
Lightweight.
Nothing with too heavy concepts in it. Nothing. Little Greta.
But for now, the movie people, they can keep that camera stuff.
Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah, they can. Baby. They can keep that camera stuff. But what does a great audition, an in-person audition, look like? How do you prepare yourself for success? What does that look like?
I would say probably for me is above anything, just like showing them like your personality and showing them that like, or giving that they want to like work with you. Because I feel like outside of like your monologue or like your scene or your song, it's like give the casting directors, give the people give people a reason for them to be like, just because like after this person said hi, I'm this person, I am so and so. What, like, why, like I want them to be casted.
Like, why you? Why me?
Right.
You know.
Right. Exactly. It's unique about me that can transcend the table and be like, oh, he's already got the shot. He's already got the part. And just having that energy exude into the audition and then hopefully into everything else.
Yeah.
Because at this point, like I'm gonna over prepare for an audition, bitch. I will.
No, every time.
Down.
Every time.
Because for me, like I don't brag about myself, but like I'm not even worried about the audition. I'm just worried about how do I look outside of this character.
How are you like perceived?
Yes.
I'd say like to prepare for an audition, depending on how long I have too, it's best to not overdo it, because I think though, as much as I over prepare, I also tend to find a moment where I'm like, I have to actually not look at this material for at least a couple days if I have enough time. Like if it's a whole month before, you cannot hammer that material because you will forget it. You will forget it in that room. I promise you that. I promise you that. And because you then will overthink remembering it because you've been so worried about it. But like when I prepared for auditions, the best way for like memorization purposes for me is that I'll do like mundane things. Like I'll clean my room and say my monologue. So I'm like and I know a lot of people use this technique of like, you're just doing, I know there is a technical name for it too, but you're like folding clothes or you're sewing something and you're like singing the song or like doing your monologue. And it actually helps a lot to make it more natural and to make it more you. It's something that I'll try to do to prepare for an audition. And I have my little note cards too. I mean, this is very technical, like monologue memorization stuff, but like I'd say I try to plan it out very like with a foundation, and then from then I try to not worry about it too much and like overdo it. But like I agree with parents, like the best way to prepare is to be like calm yourself down enough also to like be yourself, and like wear something that you love to wear on your body, like wear, like do something like that makes you you, like wear your jewelry that makes you you, you know. I mean, like to a certain extent, like I get dressing for the part you want, but also like be yourself
Oh,
in an audition. Be yourself in
right.
an audition. Prepare to be yourself, which is such a big ask. But like if you can do that and make sure you like calm yourself down to a place where you're like, no matter what happens in there, it is most important that I show who I am and show my personality to make them know that I'm the one they should cast. And I think
That,
that's one of the biggest things, besides all the technical, like actually memorize and like do your work. But yeah, being yourself is the most helpful tool.
do the work. This is my I don't want no
Do the work.
do the
Do the
work.
work.
Do the work.
No. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, besides the technical stuff, like you can't move on unless you've done the technical work.
Hmm. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah. But how I prepare for an audition. So the thing is, I'm very selective when I do an audition because I have to. I mean, of course, everyone has to care, but I have to care
Hmm.
about the work that I'm doing or the material that I have. So if I get like asked to do an audition, if I don't know the theater company, I'm gonna look them up. I'm gonna see why I'm gonna try to get myself excited to work for them, trying to hype
Hmm.
myself up so that I'm kind of training my brain to work harder at the material if I know what I'm trying to obtain.
Yeah,
If I don't know the play, I'm going to read the play. I'm sorry,
for
I'm
sure.
going to read the play.
Hmm. Yeah.
And what else? I just really get myself deep into the material. And then once I get deep into the material and I like really care, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm attached to these characters. I want to work with X, Y, and Z there. Oh, I see the artistic director is X, Y, and Z. I want to work with them. I see who's directing the play or the musical. And I try to go look back at their past work so I know kind of what they're looking for, because every director has some type of even if they don't think they do, they have some type of what's it called,
Aesthetic,
niche
or yeah,
aesthetic.
niche.
Yes,
Yeah, niche aesthetic.
yeah,
Style, like
style.
style.
Thank you.
There you
Yes,
are.
style. So
Hmm.
I always, that's number one. I always find who's directing and I try to look up their history,
Yeah.
because that's actually going to mold. If I'm choosing a monologue, that's going to affect what I choose and how I
Hmm.
present the monologue.
Yeah.
Um, what else do I do? um, once I finally have the material, I like Natalie. I do various different types of memorization.
Hmm.
I type it out. I say it out loud. I read it over and over again. And I have to understand what I'm saying. If I
Hmm.
don't understand what I'm saying, I'm not going to memorize it. So I have to understand what I'm saying so it makes sense
Yeah.
to the person viewing me. I'm the
Yeah.
if we are the interpreters of the piece, so we have to know what we're talking about. So I definitely make
Hmm.
sure I understand, and that just makes memorization 5,000 times easier.
Hmm.
And the reason why I recommend memorizing in multiple different ways, like Natalie was saying, is because it allows you to be more natural again when you are in front of the people you're auditioning for. Because no one wants to get the critique. You sound like you're reading from a script.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and people sound like they're reading from a script when they just memorized one way and they didn't memorize enough, and they're not making it natural to their body.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else? Oh, something that I always recommend. I'm so long-winded.
No, this is nice. I actually have something to add after you're done with your whole thing,
Okay,
because you reminded me of something, because I was like, what do I do? Because I know what I do, but I didn't expect to be. I knew that we were going to talk about it. I just didn't think about it.
I'm over here like, have fun.
Yeah, but be yourself.
No, period.
Yourself.
Let your personality come through.
Because honestly, at the end of the day,
wear your favorite clothes.
Period.
But anyways, Isaiah, what were you saying?
The last thing I was going to mention is that I always think about my aftercare plan to my audition.
Yeah.
I train my brain. I say, after my audition, I'm going to treat myself to ice cream or Five Guys or something to make myself, it goes back to being excited for an audition and rewarding yourself for doing the audition. You did it. You did it. You did everything you did as a performer, that your job is done. So after you do your job, go treat yourself and you can think about it, but like, don't dwell on it. You did your job. You showed up and you showed out. Thank you.
Great.
Goodbye. Go home. Rest.
Go get a treat.
Yeah, go get a
treat. Treat yourself.
Go have some fun. Yeah.
I love getting a treat after an audition, because it is so stressful. Like, you have to. And I think something you reminded me of that I literally do. I don't understand. I've literally had the same, with more adult now mixed into it, but I've had a very similar audition process for myself since I have been a child auditioning, just because once something sticks, it sticks for your brain. And something that I have done since a workshop I went to at the age of I want to say maybe 15. It was she was so cute. She went to a college audition workshop at the age of 15 or something like that, and it was about living in New York City, preparing for auditions for New York City. And I was like, oh, let's see what I can learn. And I learned a lot. I cannot remember exactly who was in charge of it, but a very helpful tip that they gave me was that when you're doing a monologue, I always, forever how long it is, I try to separate it into 3 parts, because during your monologue, the subject changes in each section of it, or a good monologue at least has movement through it, and ideas switch. But so whenever I've done a monologue, I've always made it where it's this is card 1, this is card 2, this is card 3, so that I know in an audition. And I also try to block it that way of okay, it always helps for me. When I was younger, it helped for me to block myself in a triangle by the cards, because that's kind of what they were telling us. Is a helpful tip is you walk down here and then you walk over here, and then you can do, make a triangle of sorts.
Right.
But with the flashcards, what's helped me now is that if I stumble in an audition and totally blank, I know what card is next. So I know what part of it is coming. So I can save myself, because I'm okay, the order of the cards goes boop, boop, boop. The subject is boop, 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 And so I know the order of what my character's talking about. And that goes into your thing, Isaiah, of understanding what you're saying. I think I write it out, and then I know what topics the person's saying. And especially helps when you have a monologue where people
Here's taking notes. Period.
No, for real. But it helps when you have that, because when you have a monologue of someone that's a little bit more manic in how they're talking, you give them justice by knowing your pattern of what you're saying and what's coming next. So that's a big thing I do, is on my little flashcards, I carry around my little 3 flashcards, and literally in my backpack from Butler, I have a whole stack of flashcards that I still use, and all of it just has monologues on it, because that's all I use them for, because it's just such a good thing for your brain. So It's a huge thing. And that's like my whole thing I do. And I totally forgot to say that. So thank you so much, Isaiah,
Yeah, no problem.
for
That's
poking that out so I could share.
I love that. So basically how my brain is like hearing that is like basically you have checkpoints in your monologue.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that. I never thought of it
the Virgo
like that.
brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels so organized. And even when you're memorizing it, to be able to like kind of move the cards or like see the cards laid out. And I literally have cards next to me. But as we go over more stuff, I want to see how I like. Sometimes I'll even do blocking on them too, like on the backs of them, just to see. But yeah, I love doing that because it makes so much more sense to my brain, and it makes it a little bit less stressful to like know what's coming next and understand how your person is trying to talk,
Right.
But yeah, very fun, very useful. If anyone wants to use it, feel free.
I'm gonna start using that. And I was thinking like I think the last point I'm gonna say before we can move on. For me, just like memorizing in terms of like monologues, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I do like I part that shit out, part 1, 2, 3, do as much as I can, write it down, and I take a nap. I go on a walk, or I fall asleep, and then the night of. The last thing I do before I go to bed is I read through the monologue, boom. And then first thing I do will wake up, see as much as I can remember. And then in terms of other memorizing, I just like, now do it this one character and then like do it like completely different and see like how that comes off.
Yes.
You honestly, you just said the holy grail to memorizing. The holy grail. Read your monologue before you go to bed. I swear to God.
It's so good to do that. I
It's
didn't even
so
realize.
good.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yes.
Put it under your pillow if you have to.
No,
it's so nice to like rest after you are doing it over and over and over again because oh my gosh, I forgot. I've done that before and it literally gets so cemented in there.
Yes,
I don't know what it is, but if you make it a part of your routine before you go to bed, or I've like laid in bed just like saying it to myself, just like talking to myself as if it was an actual thing I thought that day. It's so funny to prepare a monologue, in my opinion. It's hilarious.
No, it's so fun. I would think because it's like there will be parts where like when I was awake, I'm like, how can I can never remember this one part, and then as soon as I wake up, boom, I'm like, damn, that is so weird.
Oh my gosh, no,
weird.
Literally, I've done the exact same thing. Oh my gosh.
While we're talking about this, what's coming up in my head is that a lot of things that I just bit my tongue.
Oh no, a tragedy has happened on general admissions. Please.
Ouch. I was thinking about so my sister Bella, she really, for those that don't know, she's really into theater and wants to be an actress herself. And this is my little sister. She is 10 now, I think. I don't know. Y'all, I have a lot of siblings.
Right. It's that age where it's so like, many.
Right.
Yeah.
You just,
her birthday is actually July 3rd coming up. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I believe she's turning 10. No. She's turning 11. Okay, anyway, I have to stop. Okay, anyway.
Period.
I'm getting past the point. I was thinking about how, like, I've been trying to help her and, like, help basically train Bella in acting and auditioning and stuff like that. And I remember telling her on the day of her audition for Indiana Repertory Theater, she was auditioning for The Christmas Carol for Tiny Tim. And on the day of her audition, on our way there, I told her to sit and just think about just imagine how you want your audition to go. And she was just, you know, and I told her to just do it on her own time. You don't have to tell me about it. Just what do you think is going to happen in your own mind? How are you going to play out your body going into the space? Besides all the material that she practiced for the past week or two, besides anything else, all the technical stuff as being an actor, how do you want this to go? Just imagine it. And I think that's really helpful for calming your nerves. Is because we're usually nervous because of the unknown. And because we get anxious about, okay, are they going to get this part when I say this, blah, 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 blah. Am I going to do this part right? I know I messed up a couple of times before, blah, 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 blah. But if you just sit and just dream in your head, your nerves are going to dissipate or at least calm down because you are creating a reality for yourself. It's kind of like manifesting, honestly.
Yeah.
You're creating a reality for yourself. And when you go into that room for the audition, you will have a sense of familiarity. You have a sense of, you know what? I've done this before, and I can continue to do this. And so I'm going to kick ass at this audition.
Go ahead. Come on, advice.
Bella is something else.
Oh, right, sorry, and you know what she did? She booked that shit too.
Yeah, and she booked it.
And she was good. And she was, I know what we're talking about. She was great.
No, period. Bella killed it.
Oh my gosh, such a star.
No, I love
how Bella and I have this unlike said thing where we go to see each other's shows and are so proud of each other.
No, but y'all, Bella, she is something else, y'all. She's not like anything I've ever seen before. She doesn't get nervous, which is so weird to me. She doesn't get nervous. Every time I talk to her, I'd be like, "You ready for the audition?" She's like, "Yeah." Like, it's like, why am I asking?
Well, and I think it's that thing of like, because some of the kids I've taught, like I've gotten that from them. Like, obviously, there's a lot of them that get pretty nervous, which is completely valid.
Right.
But then there's that few where I'm like, you're excited. You already think you have a part, and like it's because kids want to play so bad. And like the kids that like want to do theater, you can tell they're just there to play and have fun. So it's like maybe we all just have to tap into that part. Because like I remember being a kid and being excited to go into the room. Like we have seen this before. We just have forgotten it because it's turned into this thing of like, can you audition? Are you good enough? Because there's a bunch of other people that can sing better than you, that can sing higher than you, that can read better than you, and like it's all these different things that we didn't hear as much, I think. But like I remember when I first auditioned for something like on my own, I sang Amazing Grace. And truly, I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill this actually. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's simple actually. And it was just because I was excited to be in there. Like I was just having a good time singing my little Amazing Grace, who saved a wretch like me. And so and I don't know. It's like, and I think with your sister, I can always see that she just genuinely wants to have fun and be there. Like she's so present because she's just like, oh, this is just something I love to do and I'm good at it. Yeah. Like without a question, she can answer that, you know?
Yeah.
Where sometimes we're a little bit like, maybe we're good at some things. We're sometimes good at things. You know, we have to channel that inner kid again and kind of be like, you know, heal it up, heal that inner child up that loved to like show off what they loved the most, you know?
Yeah. No, seriously. And so Bella, she has she's going to be in the Summer Stock Academy this summer. And she sent me, she was like, hey, I'm trying to figure out, I think it's Finding Nemo.
Oh yeah.
She was like, I don't know if I want to audition for Dory or the starfish that's in the tank where we all know the story.
Yeah.
But I was like, go for both. You can put on the sheet that she had to fill out. I said, put both. She was like, oh, okay. And I was like, do you need help? She said, nope, I think I got it covered. I said,
Simple.
period.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I asked her the other day, I said, have you been practicing? She said, yeah, of course.
A star.
Sorry.
Give this girlie a Broadway contract and quick.
No,
Immediately.
Expedite it to her, actually.
Right.
But enough about her.
Shade. So, okay. So I'm non-equity. Terrence, you're also
I'm
non-equity. And then Isaiah,
And then
you?
I am part of equity, yes.
Yes. So we all kind of, Terrence and I feel like we all have similar, like, oh my gosh, cannot speak, similar, like, stories.
Right.
But, like, I'd say, Isaiah, do you want to share about, like, your, like, how it is to be equity from someone who wasn't before, like, that journey?
Right.
Like, what's changed, I guess, is what I want to know.
Yeah. So before I was part of equity, I felt like I was always, or I guess I put myself in basically training mode. I feel like I just wanted to do everything I could just to get experience, to get experience and get to know people and all of that. But as I was getting booked in more professional theater scenes, I realized that I really wanted to be more specific in what I wanted to, perform. And I was getting to know my style more and knowing who I am as a performer, having agency as a performer, knowing that I have say in what I do and how I do and what I move into in the spaces I talk in. So, and just growing into adulthood, I have a lot of other responsibilities outside of theater. That's just my personal journey. And I feel like equity was the right choice for me because when I do a show, it means that I'm going to put all of my heart and soul into the show because I'm not doing the show all the time. But when I want to do a show, I want to make sure that everyone on the team is professional and wants to put on a fantastic show and puts their heart and soul into it like I am, because I'm giving up my other time to spend on this show. So I feel I want to get paid for that. So,
Fair.
So yeah. So that's why I joined equity as my personal choice, because I know that being part of equity, I don't have the option to do a lot of community theater or other performances without a contract. For me, I'm okay with that because I'm not doing just anything at right now. Like I don't have the time to. I wish I there's no shade to community theater at all. I love community theater. Oh my gosh. I wish I could, but personally and for my journey, I don't have the time without getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And
that's one fact.
Yeah, Terrence, because you live in New York, like, I want to hear about, like, what it's like to be a non-equity, like, actor, but also, like, what does it mean in those rooms that you're going into? And I know you have these calls, these cattle calls, so please.
Oh my goodness, please.
Let's talk. Let's hear it.
Well, let me start. Let me start with the first open call I went to in the city was for Moulin Rouge on tour. And it's kind of hard because like equity might be going on strike because a lot of the tour contracts aren't. I'm trying to make sure this is accurate as fuck. So as what I know of what is going on, because there's been talks strike for certain touring contracts because a lot of tours are like Broadway tours are actually non-equity or like were equity, but after a year they go non-equity. So it's like where because during the pandemic, equity is now open access, which I can like get my equity card by like just like buying in,
Literally.
but it's also because there's a lot of options for me because there's so many equity houses in the city. Like I rather just like book some shit and then get my equity card there. But going back to the first open call, it was for Moulin Rouge on tour, and the open call was split up between equity had priority because it wasn't like Sign Up Genius. It wasn't, you couldn't sign up for an audition slot prior to, you had to do a day of. And obviously equity got priority. But then after the equity people had signed up for their audition slots, then the non-equity people were able to sign up. So I don't know. I was nervous going in because obviously you hear like horror stories of non-equity people like waiting 12 hours and not even being seen. To then, great, Terrence, your audition time is at 11:40. I was like, bitch, you mean I'm gonna be here for 45 minutes and I'm done? Shut the fuck up. So that was just like, okay. So it was very different because there was also like discourse on TikTok just about like, well, it wasn't an equity call because equity people like weren't, because after the like audition slots were filled, it was just that's what it was. So there were equity people that came to try to put like get an audition slot, but the call said it was same day. Like it was just like a bunch of, it was a clusterfuck of shit. So that's been my experience. So, and then the other one I went to was Lion King, which had Sign Up Genius, and then it was an open call so anybody could show up. And then with Lion King, I told Natalie this. I think I told you this too, Isaiah. Like I showed up, there was nobody there. I literally walked in and out within 5 minutes. So I was like, shit, I'm just lucking out with these auditions. And then fast forward to this tour of this other show. I forget what it was. It was a tour. It was a show about like Louis Armstrong something, and then that was the first one where they were like, casting isn't seeing like non-equity people. You're more than welcome to like save your headshot and resume.
Wow.
Where it's like, okay, if I leave this headshot and resume, is it going to end up in the trash because this shit was not cheap and being an artist is expensive. So I don't know. It's just like, what was the second part of the question, Natalie?
I guess just like, I mean, I guess you're doing it. It's just like the experience, and like, I think that was all I really asked.
Sure.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's like
experience of it, I suppose. Yeah.
I also feel like it's different here because there are a lot of, because there's this idea that if you're not equity, you're like not considered a professional, which let's cut that shit out. Like, there's a very elitist attitude here about people who are union versus people who aren't, and I'm just like, baby, because you did a fucking equity show at the summer stock that is doing all these fucking Carolina changes and fucking Beautiful and fucking Jersey Boys every fucking summer because you get all these opportunities in your fucking equity card. Do not come for me. So
no, if y'all are watching this and you have some type of elitism with being part of equity or not, please get rid of that. That is so.
Don't let people tell you that that's
the fucking thing, so I can go. Oh, okay.
Because there's been such good work done by so many people that weren't equity and people that are equity. It kind of just doesn't matter. Like also, I mean, and I don't know. To me, it's always been a very like interesting situation because like part of me is like, I think I'd want to get equity if I end up like moving to a bigger city or like moving somewhere else. But then it's also like, would that then not let me do some opportunities that I have been given for like directing and for like, because I mean, as a director, I mean, for me, my experience has been like starting like smaller and like kind of working my way into different professional settings because I didn't go to school for directing. So like, I think that's where it always stops me is that you can put on important work even if you're not equity and you can get paid for it too. It's just that the good thing about equity is that you are protected and actually have like technically have rights like on paper. And so like that's the thing. But I do think that there is a group of people that think that if you're not equity, then you are nothing, in a way. And
Facts.
like, not to like, that sounds harsh, but it has been given, it's been that feeling.
Right, it's given that stigma or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which makes no sense because there are people part of equity who are not talented. There are people part of equity that are super talented. There are people that's not part of equity that are super talented and whatever.
Because if you can afford it,
They
then,
right.
Then and that's a whole thing, is like, if you can afford to get into the room, you probably will be getting into that room. Like, I mean, or you probably will be getting into that school. Like, you will. And I'm sure there will be another episode about, we'll talk about like college and everything, but like you will. Oh, Terrence, I'm sorry. Is there something that you'll want to say in that episode?
Tickling my throat.
I have a little palpitation. But like, I just think that my biggest thing is it's not about how much money you have, or if you can. Like, if you have a bunch of money, great. I hope you use that, because that's a big privilege. But if you don't, and you just want to make art, you go and do that art. If you just want to do that thing, go make that art. Do not wait because other people have more money than you. That makes no sense, because art is priceless. So make your art. Do what you love. Doesn't make any sense. Like, and like, being equity isn't bad. Be equity if you can. But if you're not, don't be mean to yourself about it. No need.
Right. And again, like, going off of that, just like the opportunity compared to like a white, fairly attractive, conventional musical theater boy, like, again, having opportunities for all these summer stocks and all these like regional companies to be doing all these shows that cater to them. Shout out to Destiny's Child. To them, where it's like you have, because I was talking to John about this. For those that don't know, John was my roommate, and I was just like, when audition season had just started, and there were when Pro Studios was full with all these open calls for these summer stock seasons, and like upset, like I didn't even get into the room, like yada yada yada, and I was like, well, I had to check your privilege real quick, because you're seeing a show where you literally see yourself in every single goddamn show, whereas me, bitch, all I got is fucking Dreamgirls, fucking Memphis, what is it, Color Purple,
right?
That's like, I'm just like, and I'm not seeing none of these shows on the season, and I am, so I'm just like, okay, so just being able to go up and show to an audition is a privilege in itself, because you see yourself,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Yep. No, and Mike dropped. Yes.
Mike dropped.
So I don't pity the white man.
Yeah. And it is really about, like, if you like it, the problem is that theater can be a big financial privilege sport.
Exactly.
And that's been my experience.
Which will be another episode too.
Yes, since I've been like a child, like in theater camps in general, which I'm sure there will be another episode about theater camps, but like, because I know we've all experienced like different versions of the same one. And so, but Terrence, Isaiah, and I are actually all the same person, just wrapped into one.
We're bag ready.
Yes. Why do you have props?
You always have props.
If you're listening to this, Terrence, every single time, pulls just objects around that have to do with a bit that he literally just said, or like something. And I'm getting actually horrified of Terrence.
And it's crazy because when you look at his screen, it's just a window and a wall behind him. So it's like, where are these objects coming from?
Literally nowhere. But yeah, I don't know. That's my beef. It's just always that I feel like people get discouraged when they can't afford to go to that audition, or like pay for that like camp, or pay for that class, or like pay for that college, and so like or pay to get the stuff you need to get for an audition. And so I just think that we gotta sometimes check ourselves and check what our art form is, and know that our art form started from people just telling stories. from
Yes.
bare bones storytelling.
Yeah.
And so like I think
Very-
we need to check ourselves and be like, raw talent can be found, even if you don't have all the money to afford it. You should still always go out for something.
Yes.
Even if you have a tiny little school picture of yourself and can't afford to get a headshot, like
Take
bring
it
that
in.
in.
Bring it in.
Yeah. I feel like you've been wanting to say something and I got passionate about something. So please go ahead and say the thing.
No. I've been so actually a million things have been running through my head as like everyone's
Can't wait to
talking.
hear them all.
But I don't know if any of it will actually make cohesive sense. But it's interesting because one of the reasons why I joined Equity is because I have to financially sustain myself in this career.
Yes.
So I literally, it's irresponsible for me. Again, I want to really stress to everyone, I'm talking about my journey. It would be irresponsible for me to continue to do community or any unpaid gig when I can't afford to, because I have to self-regulate and sustain myself. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So something someone said brought that up. Oh, I think it was you, Natalie, talking about how like it's such a theater is such a financial, it can be a financial hindrance. Because you do have to, really invest in yourself. Yeah, unfortunately and fortunately, I guess. But that is why, I mean, that's partly one of the silver linings of self-tapes is that if you have your phone, send in a video. Really, honestly, the moral of the story of this all is just like, please just show up to an audition in any type of form. It really doesn't matter if you think you can be in it or not. Like, that's not your job. That's the director's job. Your job is to be interested in it and to put in the work as if you are interested. So just do your actor or actor's job and go do that. If you show up, honestly, I will even go as far as to say, no, okay, I won't say that. Never mind.
Oh shit.
Say, honestly, if all you can do is show up in some sweats and then do it. But
don't do that.
No, but don't do that. Don't do that.
All you can do is show up in whatever you have laying around and jump out of bed. Roll yourself.
Right.
Don't do your hair.
Don't do your hair.
Don't even look in the mirror.
There's no need.
Don't even look. Give them that raw.
Just get in the car and go. Follow your heart.
With your slippers on, with your outdoor slippers. Actually, indoor. And don't even brush your teeth.
No, there's no need.
Just
go. You're wearing the red Crocs too.
Because
wear them on the wrong feet.
Your raw, authentic human self. So show up. Just show. If you're naked, you're naked. Who cares? No. You want authenticity.
Right.
Come on.
She said, I'll be auditioning for Hair the musical. Thank you so much.
Yes, literally, Hair.
No, okay, so clearly that's too far. Too far. But yes, actually, you have to show that you care and you actually want to be a part, of the production. But what we mean to, we're getting to the point of just stop stressing about what you think they're going to think. Just be excited. Go have fun.
Yeah. Go have fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's a fun art form. Please have fun.
Have fun. You can find auditions anywhere. Just do it.
Is there anything else to add?
I think we hit them all.
I think we covered literally every single thing we could cover. So
literally.
And some.
Have fun with that, Aaron.
Aaron is our editor.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
I forgot we're still on.
But thank you all for listening for another
Right.
week. We really appreciate it. And again, if you have any ideas for something you want to hear us talk about, or if there's anything just that's been on your mind, please let us know.
If you want to be on our
And
show,
if you want to be
let us
on our
know.
show, let us know. Send us your resume and headshot. I'm just kidding. But yes, thank you all for listening.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next
Yes.
time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to General Admission. General Admission is produced by Terrence Lambert, Isaiah Moore, and Natalie Fisher. Our editing engineer is Aaron Smith. Our director of social media marketing is Jenica Albert. Our music is by Maxine Wilkins, and our graphic design is by Paige Jones. Until next time, bye!